As you may know, Rumi is one of the greatest teachers of all time, whose teachings have transcended time and space. And today we can learn from him as if he is teaching and we are actually sitting at his feet, listening to him. Being a seeker sparks a flame in our hearts and souls that helps us recognize our fellow seekers. This is the same spark of fire that burns within and shows us that there is more behind this veil of manifested world of forms. And who's better to ask to show the way than those who have gone this path before, following their own spark of fire within. Today we are very pleased to have Dr. Marman as our speaker. Doug has been writing, lecturing, and leading classes on the exploration of consciousness for more than 40 years. He has written several books on spirituality, including It Is What It Is, a comprehensive commentary on Rumi's Fihi Ma Fihi, which is a collection of Rumi's lectures. The Silent Question is another book written by him. It is a true story of the quest to know. It is about the power hidden behind the questions that have haunted people since the beginning of time. Questions like, who am I? Why am I here? And what is the meaning of life? He has also had a varied and interesting technical career. He's been Chief Technology Officer of a 1.7 billion division of GE company, a co-founder of a technology startup based on breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, and inventor with more than 30 patents used in tens of millions of products worldwide. The path of spirituality may not be an easy one. As Rumi says, keep walking, though there is no place to get to. Don't try to see through the distances. That is not for human beings. Move within, but don't move the way fear makes you move. Doug, welcome to our town. I would like to ask you please to take the photo.
Well, it's nice to visit this area. Been here for a few days and enjoyed the area. What I thought we'd do, I would like to read something I wrote specifically for this meeting here. Start with that. Then I have some thoughts, some ideas I'd like to talk about. Then I thought we'd open it up to some dialogue. And we'll have some dialogue on some of Rumi's words. I thought that would be interesting. And then later on, we'll open it up to just general questions on any subject. So that will kind of give you an idea of where we're going. Okay. So this is something I call, it's titled, Who Are Called? And this is inspired by Rumi's writings. Who are the ones called to the spiritual path? They are those who inwardly feel that there must be more to life. Whether they realize it or not, they are continually looking into the hearts of others, through books, and even in pilgrimages to sacred places, searching for something more. Many think they know what they are looking for. They want to find a teaching that is perfect, that must have no flaws. Or they want to find a teacher who can answer any question. But those who are called don't even know it until they are awakened to a reality beyond themselves. Who are these people who are called? They are the ones who hear and recognize the silent invitation of life as if it were a message just for them. Why would life deliver a message only for them, they wonder? Why does the call feel so personal? Those who go far on the spiritual path often feel quite ordinary at first. Nothing special happens in their lives, they think, until the moment when the call arrives. That is why they wonder, how can the call be so personal? How can it be just for me. Doesn't everyone experience this? But they soon learn that most people do not. This feeling, this awakening to an inner call, is for them. People who have a feeling of self-importance and see themselves as successful generally miss the call. They don't hear it and can't feel it because they are too caught up in the praises of the world. Being recognized and treated as special is too important to them. How could they hear the subtle voice of life when their ears are filled with the fanfare of their own success? Those who hear the call, on the other hand, never fully fit into the world. Like others, even when they find success, this is why they look for something more. The call grows in importance to them after it awakens a memory that this world is not their true home. Over time, they begin to see why they had this feeling all along, that they don't fully belong in the physical world. It is life who whispers this message to them, whether they realize it or not. Why would life say this? Because life misses them and is calling them home. They have been away too long. Whether they know it or not, a part of them belongs to life. However, the secret is not usually discovered until later, after the spiritual path becomes their quest. That is when the recognition of how deeply they are connected to life hits them. One day, they know that life isn't something they possess, but something that possesses them. How do the people who are called come to this realization that they belong to life, not to this world? It takes time. They must hear the call over and over before knowing that it is indeed just for them. The awakening that comes from inner light and the inner sound that uplifts and moves us are not enough. Those moments of inspiration, after all, are just calls. Like a child coming to our door, ringing our bell, and asking, "Can you come out to play?" We need to say yes to the call, and we must go with life. The moment this happens, everything changes. Our life flips inside out. Outer events seem even less important. Our inner life begins to blossom. An inner garden begins to grow within us, delivering unexpected offerings from life. They are for us. They are personal gifts. But as we travel the spiritual path, we soon learn that what we experience is not just for us alone. If we want to go into the spiritual world, far into the spiritual worlds, if we want to find the inner lakes that wash away the troubles of the world, if we want to stand on top of inner mountains to see the meaning of life stretched out before us, we must willingly take on responsibilities that life asks of us. One of these is to share the gifts we have been given. Sharing means letting go, letting the flow of life move through us and out to others who are hungry for it. This is when we discover something remarkable. The gifts we share don't come from us. They come through us. The spontaneous feelings of inspiration we feel in certain moments are for us. They are personal, but not for us alone. And hidden within them are also messages for others. They flow into the world through those who are awake. They flow out to ring doorbells, to deliver personal invitations. This is when we learn that we too were called the same way. Others who walked before us shared their gifts. They flew into our lives like winged seeds. They came for us to eat and digest when we're hungry, to absorb into our being where they grow. Each gift comes with an unstated message. Please pass the fruits of your inspirations on to others. Release them to the world. The spiritual flow needs to be free because it has a life of its own. Life has a life of its own. After setting these winged messages free, we see proof that they do not come from us. They only come through us. The proof hits us the moment we see others recognizing that these gifts are meant for them, just for them. They are personal messages to them from life. In many ways, it is as if we are carrying a letter from their lover to them. So that was something I wrote. One of the questions that kind of comes up from this is, it talks about an awakening. What is it that we're awakening to? Sometimes it's a child at the door asking if we want to play. And really, one of the things that's interesting about this is what it is awakening us to is a relationship with life. What's often interesting about this is we often miss the relationship thing. And if you look at the way the world we grow up in is today, our focus is largely on the things of the world, the things of the outer world. We see these things, they're clear. But the things that are really important in the relationship with life are invisible. They can't be seen with objective eyes. And if you look at what this comes down to is the words of Rumi are often written in such a way that you get a sense of something really amazing coming through. But how does he see those? How does we hear it and the part of us can recognize? As I was writing in a poetic sense. But why? What is it about that captures something that can't be seen in a better way? And so what a lot of this comes down to is we're looking for to be able to see these things as well as we can see outer things, is we need a new lens of perception, a new way of seeing. And that new way of seeing, to learn a new way of seeing, sometimes is a challenge. You can often pick it up from someone else. You can pick it up from Rumi's writings. And you can pick it up from others who have also experienced this. These are the winged seeds that I was talking about that come from others. And we catch it more than we understand it with our mind. Because lots of times it's beyond our mind to understand it. But we can see it with the right lens. What is that lens? Well, if you look at the way we look at the world on the outside as if we were standing back as an observer, that's a third person lens. We're the third person. We're on outside. We're the observers. And we've learned to see things this way, and largely because of science, because science teaches us, this helps us understand things. And when you learn things in school, a lot of the things you're learning are objective facts and information. But there's other ways of seeing as well. And when it comes to poetry, when it comes to understanding the hidden things, the invisible things, we need a second person lens. Second person lens. Second person is when you are talking from yourself to another person directly. You're using the word you. Like, I wish you were here. You know, come with me, as Rumi often says. This is second person. It's personal. It's a relationship. That's what second person lenses are about. And the reason this is important is because when we're talking about our relationship with life, we're talking about life calling us responding. It is a relationship. We can often miss this, but with the second person lens, you begin to recognize that's exactly what's happening. Now there's also one more lens, and that's the first person lens. That's of course our experiences. Those are our personal experiences. They belong to us. They don't belong to anybody else. Those are the things we experience. But the second person is shared. And it's a shared experience. It's actually something that goes back and forth. It's something that exists between people, between beings. We've been here a few days, as I mentioned, and we went down to see the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto. And when we got there in the front is a big statue of the Persian word "hich," which means nothing. And so we were joking, well, we've come all the way here for nothing. And I would say the same thing to you. You've all come here for nothing. But the good news is this nothing is really something. If you look at it, one of the things that comes through in the museum, you can see that you have science and you have poetry, kind of the two aspects. And oftentimes the science was talked about through words of Arabic, and Persian was often used for the poetry. If you come to the modern day, we have science and poetry as if they're two separate things as well. And their languages are very different as well. But when it comes to nothing, it's very interesting. Because when you look at the science of nothing, you look at atoms, and what are they mostly made of? Mostly made of nothing, space. And even inside the atoms, if you go inside the atoms, in the nucleus, you have protons and neutrons. And if you go into those protons and neutrons, what do you find? It's mostly space. It's empty. It's nothing. When you look at poetry, of course, we see nothing as well. But there's a difference. The poetic nothing is filled with a presence. It really is something. We can call it relational space. It's a space that exists between beings in a relationship. There's a fullness in that nothing. That is something. It's like when people talk, you can listen to the words, but there's a whole lot more between the lines. Between the words. Things that are invisible, that you recognize and you understand. And somehow it comes through because you're connected on a relationship. Strangers try to tell a joke, you don't get it. But a friend tells a joke, you don't. You know exactly where they're coming from, what they mean by it. We have other phrases like the pregnant pause. That's the pause between somebody speaking and that pause can be filled with meaning. It doesn't have to be words. It can be the space between the words. And that's what comes through with the second person lens, with the relationships. Here's a poem I wrote many years ago that kind of talks about the same sort of thing. It's called Whispers of the In-Between. Between a blade of grass and the sky is too much for words to express. Between one root and the earth is something too sacred to be exposed. Do not pull apart the fabric to learn. Like fine rain, seep into thinner and thinner spaces. From the surgeon's hand to man's heart are miles of separation. From the scalpel's edge to a single truth are 1,000 doors no knife can unlock. True friends have a way of opening hearts that leaves no scars. Even this thread of a poem is too thick for a fine curtain that heaven draws between moments. Even the pause between breaths is not thin enough. To know without knowing. Have you ever noticed you become lost at the very instant of discovery? The fabric of hearts is infinitely fine and delicate. Tear even one thread and it frays into 1,000,000 fragments that no tailor can restore. If you must know the secrets hidden from prying eyes, then follow the whispers of the in-between. Rumi talks about a little bit about this, the invisible nature of life that we miss unless we have the right lens. He says, and this is from Discourse 14 in his discourses, whatever you see in this world corresponds exactly with what is in the world beyond. All those realities are samples of the other reality. By the other reality, he's talking about the reality we share with life, the invisible relationship. It's not just like another world. It is actually something that's with us everywhere. It's not just like in another separate dimension. Although in many ways it is like another dimension because you can't see it with physical eyes. Whatever exists in this world has come from there. The bald man of Baalbek carried on his head trays and samples of various herbs, a pinch of pepper, a pinch of mastic, a pinch from every heap. The heaps were infinite, but there was no room on his tray for more. People are like the bald man of Baalbek. They are loaded with pinches and pieces out of the treasuries of God, some known and some hidden. A piece of learning, a piece of hearing, a piece of speech, a piece of reason, a piece of generosity, a piece of knowledge. For this reason, our work is always a reflection of God. There are beings who are hawkers of God. Night and day, they fill trays. By day, you spend away your portion to make your living. By night, these beings replenish your tray. These sound a lot like the gifts we were talking about, the spiritual gifts of life. For instance, in the other world, there are sights and visions of many kinds. A sample of those has been sent to you to see in this world. Sight is not limited to this world only, but the human body cannot bear more than this. So we need to use other eyes. Thousands of people, generation after generation, have come and filled themselves from that sea, returning again and again. That source is infinite. The longer we stay upon that infinite sea, the colder our heart grows for this world of samples. This world is coined in that mint and must return to that mint again. All our parts have issued from that mint, are samples of that mint, and must return again, small and great, for all living creatures. Yet upon the tray of this world, life becomes visible. Without the tray, it is not visible. That infinite world is a subtle world and does not reveal itself openly. Yet look how wonderfully it makes its appearance here. Don't you see how the spring breeze becomes visible through the trees and grasses, the rose beds and sweet herbs? With the swaying of fields and flowers, you witness the beauty of spring. But when you look upon the breeze itself, you see nothing. This doesn't mean the beauty of those rose beds is outside the subtle reality of the breeze. The spring breeze contains the images of swaying rose beds and sweet herbs, but those images are hidden and invisible. Only through the medium of form is there subtly revealed. If you stop and think about it, it's that relationship, when we key into that relationship with light, we suddenly see those things. That's when the moment that beauty of nature hits us, and we're connected. And it's something that's invisible we're making a connection with. The infinite world, likewise in the human body, human being, These qualities are hidden and only become manifest through an inward or outward medium. One person through speech, another through work, another through times of war or peace. You cannot see these attributes within yourself. Look and you will find nothing there. So you believe yourself empty of these infinite attributes. These attributes do not come forth and change you into something else from what you were. Rather, these qualities are hidden in you like the water in the sea. Water cannot leave the sea except through the sun's heat and the form of a cloud. It doesn't become visible except in waves. Your wave is a commotion that becomes visible within you. But so long as the sea is still, you see nothing. Your body is on the shore of the sea, and the soul is a part of the ocean itself. Do you not see how many fishes, snakes, birds, and creatures of all kinds come forth and show themselves and then return to the sea? Your attributes, such as patience, friendship, loyalty, and the rest, come forth from the sea. These qualities are subtle lovers of God. You can only glimpse them through the medium of the tongue. But because of their subtlety, without speech, they are naked and retreat back out of sight into the arms of God. So if we use a poetic language, we can talk about these things. If we use a second-person lens, we are able to talk about having awareness of these things that are invisible, that you can't even really properly describe with words. The words themselves don't capture it. It's not the words. It's what's between the words. This is what a second-person lens is. Rumi talks about these things that come from out within us, from the sea that's within us. We don't even realize who we are until we're in a situation and we do something we didn't even expect we would do. What is it that brings out these things within us? It's actually our relationship with the situation. So if we are at work, it's one type of relationship. If we're with our family, it's a different type of relationship. And as soon as you are in that relationship, a new sort of thing springs from you that's appropriate for that relationship because of the relationships between you and that situation. You can walk into a group of strangers and you will feel something you haven't felt before. That feeling that's coming out of you is a relationship expression. It's coming forth. So this is all why so many of these things, why we miss the relationship of life, because we're so used to seeing the outer things, things that we can talk about in words, not between the words, but the words themselves. And we miss the part that's between the words. We need a second-person lens to see. We need to see the relationship. Now, one of the things that is important with a relationship is a giving and exchanging. That's what it means. So we give, we receive, and it's a back and forth. In fact, if you go down to the science, you'll find all wave action is caused by this give and take. It's the same thing. The attraction between electrons and protons, it's the same thing. In other words, the space, the nothing in atoms, and the nothing in poetry is the same. It's not different. The reason there's space in those atoms is because of relationships. When we have a sharing, you can't, outsiders can't see what people share between themselves. Friendship, outsiders can't see and recognize it. The friends recognize it in each other. So it's not objective. This sharing It's there, it's real, it's a substance, but it's not visible. We need a second person lens to see that.